8 Psychology Facts You Didn't Know About Your Brain. Are you left-brained or right-brained? Perhaps you've heard this and other quirky myths about the human brain. They're so common, they must be true. Right. Well, not exactly. The human brain is a mystery, filled with many more puzzles than answers. There are still many unanswered questions about how our brains work and what goes wrong when we struggle with various mental illnesses. While we don't know everything about the human brain yet, researchers have discovered some pretty amazing facts that are worth knowing. Here are 8 psychological facts about your brain that you probably didn't know. 1. Your brain uses 20% of the oxygen and blood in your body. When you think about the human brain, you might imagine a powerful computer with millions of wires and circuits that process difficult problems, store memories, and control our muscles and senses. However, the brain is much more than that. It also happens to be a very hungry organ. The brain uses 20% of the oxygen and blood in your body to keep everything running smoothly. This hungry organ contains 80% of your body's serotonin, 90% of your dopamine, 95% of your noradrenaline, and 99% of your oxytocin, all the chemicals necessary for feelings of happiness, pleasure, and love. The brain is a very active organ. It is the organ that is most affected by stress. When you are stressed out, your brain is the organ that receives the most stress hormones. This makes sense, because stress happens in your mind, not in your muscles. 2. You have more brain cells as a baby than at any other time in your life. As an infant, you have an abundance of brain cells and connections, making you incredibly curious and eager to learn. As you get older, some of these cells die off while others maintain their connections, making you less curious and more set in your ways. This discovery makes it all the more tragic that many infants and young children are neglected or abused, leading to the permanent loss of many of these precious brain cells. The death of a child's curiosity is a great loss to all humanity. Parents, protect and encourage your child's curiosity by creating safe, nurturing and stimulating environments for learning. The more you stimulate your infant's and toddler's brain, the more their brain cells will flourish. Your infant's brain is incredibly malleable and receptive to new experiences and information. Play with your infant as much as possible, and she will build her brain and learn how to learn. 3. The human brain is constantly changing. Our brains are continuously changing, even as we get older. In fact, our brains are always changing, all the way until the day we die. When we're babies or young children, our brains are still developing and growing, so we're able to learn new things and pick up new skills much faster because our brains are more flexible and malleable. When we're older, our brains are more rigid and set in their ways, making it more difficult to learn new things or change our behavior. If you want to learn a new language when you're older, you might notice that it's a bit more challenging. But, if you start when you're young, it will be much easier. Your brain is constantly changing and evolving. You are able to do this because your brain generates new neurons and connections. 4. By the age of 3, you've developed 90% of your brain's capacity. The human brain at birth has the same number of connections and neurons as an adult brain. However, the connections in infants' brains are not fully developed. They need stimulation, experience, and time to fully develop. By the age of 3, 90% of the brain's connections are developed and formed. So, if you don't give your infant the stimulation they need when they're young, their brain will not develop to its full capacity. In fact, studies have shown that children who are abused or left alone in a crib without toys or stimulation don't even develop the same way as a child who is given toys, affection, and attention. Their brains don't develop properly. This is why it's so important for parents to make sure their infants receive plenty of attention, affection, and stimulation. 5. Depression causes changes to your brain structure and chemistry. While scientists don't know exactly what causes depression, they do know that it causes physical changes in your brain structure and chemistry. In fact, depressed brains are actually different from non-depressed brains in some ways. Studies have found that the area of the brain that deals with the regulation of emotions and mood is smaller in people with depression. The hippocampus, which is involved in the regulation of stress and emotions, is smaller in people with depression. It's also been found that people with depression have lower levels of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine in their brains. Depression is a real medical condition that is not something that you can just snap out of. If you or a loved one is experiencing depression, it's important to seek help from a medical professional. 6. Women's brains are built differently from men's brains. Women and men are different in many ways. Our brains are no exception. On average, women tend to have more gray matter than men do, and men have more white matter. Gray matter is the stuff that does all the thinking and processing. It's responsible for our mood and skills like language, reading, and writing. White matter connects all the gray matter together. It's responsible for skills like hand-eye coordination, sports, and math. These differences in the way men and women process information might explain why men and women often excel in different areas. These differences are not due to gender alone. They're also due to the different ways men and women are socialized. For example, studies show that girls start talking earlier than boys, but boys learn to read before girls. These differences are not limited to skills and abilities. They also extend to how emotions are processed and experienced. 7. There is no such thing as a left-brained person or a right-brained person. The idea that people are either right-brained or left-brained is a false assumption. In reality, people use both the left and right sides of their brain when thinking or solving problems. The only difference is that people tend to have a preferred side. The idea that people are left-brained or right-brained came from research done by Dr. Roger W. Sperry and Dr. David Furster. They studied the brains of epileptic patients who had had their corpus callosum removed, which is the connection between the left and right halves of the brain. Their research revealed that each side of the brain has its own unique skills. However, their research was conducted on a very small sample of people and has not been replicated since then. It's also important to note that some people have a corpus callosum. In those instances, the two sides of the brain are not separate, and this theory does not hold true. 8. The human brain has unlimited potential for change and development throughout our lives. Your brain is not fixed and unchanging at the moment of birth. Your brain is a living organ and continues to grow and change throughout your lifetime. It's possible for you to learn and develop new skills and abilities at any age. Even though people tend to get better at skills and tasks as they become more practiced and automatic as they grow older, this does not mean that you are stuck with whatever skills you have now. You can always learn new things, improve your skills, and change your brain. No matter how old you are, you always have the potential to learn new things and change your brain. This is true even as we age. Our brains are very resilient and can even regenerate neurons in certain areas as we get older. There are many factors that affect how well we retain and develop new skills as we age. For example, it's important to stay socially and intellectually engaged as you get older so that your brain stays. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family, so we can produce more videos like this. For more videos like this, hit the subscribe button, and remember to click on the notification bell. Thanks for watching.